There was a time when contribution felt like something that needed to last. Not always in a grand sense. Not necessarily about being remembered, but there was often a quiet hope that what I did would add up to something, that it would leave a trace, that it would count beyond the moment, that it would mean something later. This episode is about what it's like when that expectation softens, when contribution continues, but without the need for legacy. For much of life, contribution is tied to continuity. We offer effort, care, work, and presence with the sense that it should accumulate into value over time. We want to make a difference. We want to leave something behind. We want to feel that our actions mattered. Even when we don't articulate it, the idea of legacy quietly shapes how we give. But there may come a point when that orientation loosens. You still contribute. You still show up. You still offer what's needed. But you're no longer doing it for what it becomes. You're doing it because it's here. At first, this can feel unsettling. Without the idea of legacy, contribution can feel strangely ungrounded. You may wonder whether what you're doing is meaningful if it doesn't endure, if it won't be remembered, if it doesn't add to a story. But nothing essential has gone missing. What's missing is accumulation. Contribution without legacy doesn't mean contribution without care. Care still moves through action. Attention still shapes what you do. But the action isn't being stored. It doesn't need to justify itself later. You contribute, and then the moment closes. This can feel deeply relieving. You're no longer carrying the future inside your present actions. You're not asking what this will lead to or how it will be seen. You're not building something out of your effort. You're responding. This episode isn't about rejecting impact. Impact still happens. Things change. People are affected. Situations shift. But impact isn't being measured. You don't need to know what effect you had. You don't need confirmation. You may notice this in very ordinary ways. Doing something helpful that goes unnoticed. Offering support that doesn't get acknowledged. Completing work that will be undone or replaced. You don't feel diminished by that. You don't feel frustrated. You simply move on. This doesn't mean you stop caring about outcomes entirely. It means outcomes aren't carrying your sense of value. You're not tying your worth to what remains. This can feel like a quiet form of freedom. You're not trying to leave a mark. You're not trying to be significant. You're participating. This episode isn't about minimizing your role in the world. It's about releasing the belief that contribution must extend beyond the moment to be valid. Moments matter because they happen, not because they last. You may notice that this changes how you relate to time. You're less focused on long arcs and more present with immediate needs. You don't feel pressured to make today count toward tomorrow. You let today be today. This can soften a lot of internal strain. You're no longer carrying the weight of future meaning. You're not asking your actions to stand for you. You're simply responding to what's in front of you. This can also change how you relate to recognition. Recognition becomes unnecessary. Appreciation can be received without being absorbed. Its absence doesn't sting. You're not waiting for acknowledgement. You may also notice that disappointment behaves differently. When things don't unfold as hoped, there's less collapse. You didn't invest your sense of self in the outcome. You adjust. You continue. Nothing is lost. Contribution without legacy also shifts how you see others' contributions. You're less inclined to measure impact or significance. You see people doing what they can in their own moments. You don't rank importance. You don't compare footprints. This season has been about contribution returning without identity. This episode places contribution inside that movement, available, responsive, and unburdened by permanence. Contribution doesn't need to echo. It doesn't need to ripple forward endlessly. It doesn't need to be remembered. It only needs to meet the moment it's part of. This can feel deeply grounding. You're no longer asking life to prove that your presence matters. You're present, and that's enough. If you're listening to this and noticing that you still contribute, but you're less concerned with what remains afterward, you're not disengaging. You're contributing without legacy. If these reflections feel like something you can return to, you're welcome to stay. Liking the video helps it reach others who feel pressure to make their actions matter in the long run. And if you want to keep a steady space like this available, you can subscribe, not for recognition or remembrance, but for companionship. If someone you care about seems quieter in how they give lately, less focused on lasting impact. You're welcome to share this with them, only if it feels right. Contribution doesn't need a future to be real. It only needs a moment, and then it can end.